Let's do a quick test if you're able to hear me. So could you just put it in the chat box if you're able to hear and see me well? Brilliant. Thanks. Thanks, Sashank. Thanks, Indira. Okay. And you're able to see me well? Okay. Brilliant. Thanks. Thanks, Stage. Excellent. Good. How are you guys doing? Hope you guys are doing well. So we still have a couple of minutes before we can start the session, so that we can make sure that everyone else joins. Hi, Tanzina, if I've got that right. Uh, yeah, so while we wait for others to join the session, I'd be curious to know about you guys. You know, why are you here? Where are you from? What do you do? So anything that you'd like to share, maybe you can share it in the chat box. Hi, Tanzina. Well, glad you are here. Thanks for sharing. Okay. Sorry, that's my cat going really crazy. Uh, the challenges of working from home. Just give me one moment. Hey, Shashank, how are you? What about rest of you? Where are you guys from? Hey, Tejaswini. Oh, wow, second business. Excellent. Yes. Uh, hey, Divya. I'd also love to know, like Tejaswini shared, as you share where you're from, just to share what brings you here. Hey, Ajit. Uh, we met in Dew Art Cafe 5 5 years back. That's been a long time. I'm so sorry. Unfortunately, I don't recollect fully, but I'm sure that I'll get there. Yeah, but thanks for joining us today. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Jyoti. This seems interesting. Excellent. Interesting in what way? What did you find interesting? Yeah, and we're gonna wait for a couple of more minutes, just so that we can make sure that everyone joins. So again, like I said, feel free, please share where you're from, what brings you here, uh, and this is what most of the session is going to be about, right? This is not just a presentation. This is not going to be one of those sessions where I'm going to talk and you're going to listen. Now, this is going to be interaction. We're going to do some activities. We're gonna work through certain insights. So there are lots of. This is experiential, so your participation is quite important. Yeah. So it would be great if you can, start getting that practice of participation right now. Hey, Parkavi. Yeah, it's been a long time. Thanks for joining. Yeah. Hey, Indira, looking to discover yourselves. And again, apologize for my cat. He's in a real playful mode. So I'm sure you're hearing lots of different sounds and playfulness from him. Hey, Shweta. Oh, PhD. And what are you focusing on specifically in PhD? Okay, positive psychology. Hey, Pallavi. Secrets are always interesting, aren't they? Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, brilliant. All right, so let's just slowly start, and we will rope others in as and when they join. But thank you, first of all, thank you all for uh, yeah, secret. Yeah, secret's the way we get people to join the webinars. Yeah, but I do. So let me first start by sharing in terms of what this session is going to be about, right? This is, like I said, it's an online workshop. So this is a workshop style. So we're going to have a lot of interaction. We're going to have a lot of participation. We're going to do some activities, and that's the structure of today's session. Yes, it's secret, and I'll share where this comes from. So uh, but before we start the session, there are a few ground rules if we can have that in place. One, if you don't have that already, I'm going to give you about a minute or two for you guys to kind of get a book and a pen, so that you can make notes, do the activities, do the exercises. It's usually useful because this is online, so it's useful to have uh, something to drink, a warm beverage. It just keeps you focused. And also, like I said, that participate, share, be involved as much as you can. Right? So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds to get a notebook and a pen, or something to journal. It could be a notepad on your laptop, anything that you can write on. So could you just put it in the chat box once you have joined? So just say yes in the chat box so that I know that you've got it. Okay. Thanks for the brilliant. Yes and ready. Excellent. Brilliant. Good. You guys are quick. All right. Now, so before we actually get into the session, I first want to explore what is extraordinary for you guys, because it's such an ambiguous term. I mean, extraordinary could mean so many different things in so many different ways. I mean, I was curious about what extraordinary is. How is it defined in dictionary? And even when I went to dictionary and checked the definition, it just says that extraordinary is someone who's very remarkable, which in itself is ambiguous, right? Remarkable. What is that? Right? So before we kind of get into exploring these secrets, these frameworks for being extraordinary, I'd be curious to understand from you guys that what is extraordinary for you? What does it mean for you? You know, at the end of this session, if the outcome of the session is for you to be extraordinary, what does that look like? You know, what does that feel like? And so what are some of those things that allows you to know that, yes, okay, you know what, I am extraordinary? So could share in the chat box that what does extraordinary mean for you? Yes, it is relative. So for you, extraordinary is to have a name and fame in the native. Excellent. Uh, Extraordinary is something different, special, something that's not normal, someone who stands out in the crowd. But again, stands out in what way? Something that you can change globally. Uh, Extraordinary is super intelligent. Excellent. Good feeling, great feeling, self assured, self confidence, feeling strong. There's a lot of different things. So thanks, Bhargavi. Uh, so being oneself fully. Okay, so when you're fully able to express, when you're fully able to be yourself, trust yourself, then that's extraordinary for you. Okay. Then we are outperforming who? Right? Outperforming in what? So what is that? Uh, Anything that triggers a unique thought and action. So again, the question is that what is that uniqueness? How do you know when something's unique? Uh, extraordinary is when you're super creative. Uh, Anant, you're not able to hear. Are you able to hear me now? I'll get the mic as close as I can. Okay. Extraordinary is when it's you're unmatched. Someone who does something super. Okay. If you can build a bigger company than Google, such high standards, brilliant. uh, when you are living your life to full potential, you're extra plus ordinary. Excellent. Okay. As they just living to your highest potential, contributing to the world. Okay, brilliant. These are some of the most uh, creative and amazing definitions, right? Uh, just so that you know, if some of you are facing any technical difficulty, just keep an eye on Vimla's messages. She will help you out with the technical difficulties. I've pinned her message as well. Okay, excellent. So we all have different definitions of extraordinary. And so I thought uh, everyone has a, we all have our own unique meaning and unique definition of extraordinary. We all feel differently when we are extraordinary. We all experience extraordinary differently. Uh, but having said that, there are common patterns. So no matter what makes you feel extraordinary, at the underlying there is an underlying structure, there is an underlying common pattern that allows you to be your definition of extraordinary, that allows you to be how you are extraordinary. So let me tell you, as I call the story behind extraordinary, or my drive that came to be extraordinary. I used to work in this organization a long time back where all of us strive towards being extraordinary, and it was defined very specifically. This was about 10, 12 years back. But about 6, 7 years back, I started getting really curious about what makes someone extraordinary. For me, the definition of extraordinary at that point was when someone's able to achieve something great. Either they are able to create good impact to the planet, either they are able to achieve some unique feats, but it had to be more or less in line with, you know, uh, operating from your full potential, as some of you said, but at the same time creating impact. So I started. I traveled around the world and met some of the most amazing people, as you can see on the slide. I've lived. If you see on the leftmost, that's a monk in the Himalayas, and I've lived with him for a couple of months over a period of time, and I've modeled him to understand his structure of what it is to be extraordinary. I've lived with monks, or not lived. I've spent time with monks in Thailand. That's the second picture. His name is Monk KK, and such an amazing person. He was part of he was part of our Thai retreat where we got a chance to model him about his thoughts. And for him, extraordinary was just to be present. For him, extraordinary was to just fully let go. And it was interesting how his story defined how he created extraordinary for him. And then I've spent a lot of time modeling. Some of you who present at the NLP conference know Satyarup Sen Gupta. I've been modeling him for last 7, 8 months because one of my goal or one of my vision in life is to climb Everest. And Satyarup is the youngest person, so he's the Guinness World Record holder to be the youngest person to climb the 7 summits and 7 volcano summits. So for those of you who don't know, 7 summits is 7 highest peak on all continents, and then 7 highest volcano peaks on all continents. And he's the youngest person on the planet to do that. And I've been modeling him for last about 7, 8 months. And to the rightmost, Oliver, he's an adventure enthusiast in Switzerland, who I happened to bump into in Argentina as well. And for me, that was extraordinary. We didn't plan, we didn't know we were going to be there together at the same time, and we just happened to be at the same place at the same time on a different side of the planet. And I've spent a lot of time with him to understand his mindset because he does some amazing stuff. Spends time traveling the world, climbing peaks and jumping off the cliffs, and he does some brilliant stuff. And I've modeled so many entrepreneurs and so many people who achieved some of the most brilliant things in life. Now, after modeling and interviewing these people, I've kind of come to realize that there is a structure. There is a particular way that these people think about the world. No matter their goals might be different, right? For monks, it's about attaining enlightenment. For Satyarup, it is about being adventurous and exploring full potential. For Oliver, his goal is to travel and explore the world. I'm sure for some of you, as mentioned, it's about having your own startup or having an organization which is bigger than Google. So, so where you want to be extraordinary in can change, but the underlying pattern of what made these guys extraordinary remains the same. And today's workshop is about, you know, I mean, there are lots and lots of patterns, and there is no way that we can cover that in 1 hour. But I'm going to share some of the patterns that has created the most impact for me, for from which I have been able to. I run two organizations now. I travel the world. I run retreats on 3 different continents, and I have been able to achieve some of these things. It's only because I've got an opportunity to be with these guys and model them and interview them and pick their minds, pick their brains, and then apply it to myself. Right. So, does this make sense so far to all of you? Just put it in the chat box. Yes, no, maybe. Excellent. So, what we're going to do today is 3 particular mindsets. I won't even call it framework. It's the mindset that I recognize that these guys thought about the world in a particular way. They thought about life in a particular way. They thought about their goals in a particular way. They thought about being in with people, leadership, all of this in a particular way. And so that's exactly what we're going to explore. That what is that way of thinking? How did they, how, who were they, or how did they think about being extraordinary? Now, of course, the first thing to really mention is that none of these guys thought that they were extraordinary, and which is something part of one of the secrets at the end that I'm going to share, right? Because none of these guys thought that they were extraordinary. I thought that they were extraordinary because the things that they were able to create an impact, for them it was just a normal thing. For them it was just a way of life, which is also one of the secrets, and which is something that we're going to get to at last, because that's like the big reveal, the big surprise, and all of you would be shocked. So if you really want to know about it, then stay till the end of the webinar. But the first thing I would like you to kind of share with me is that from what I've shared so far, what according to you could be some of the patterns of being extraordinary? So if you can put it in the chat box again, what makes these guys extraordinary? What makes you extraordinary? What makes some people extraordinary? What are some of the patterns according to you? Discipline, humility, commitments to goals, uh, passion and consistency, belief and self-awareness, uniqueness, a purpose, being fearless, vision, being in present and creating positive impact. Excellent. Okay. Wow. Thank you. You guys are so engaging. I love it. I love it when there's an engaging session. You guys are brilliant. Excellent. Thank you so much for that. A purpose, self-expression, self-belief, perception. Yeah. I mean, it's a combination of all of these things together. But if you notice that what all of you have mentioned, like discipline, vision, self-belief, intention, routines, attitude, being present, positive impacts. If you notice, all of these are states, all of these are emotions, and in what it's something that I would like to define as values. So if you recognize that all of this are part of the values, and that's the part of the, yeah, focus, discipline, self-belief, vision. All of these are just single words, and these single words are values. And that's the part of the first secret that I recognized, right? That the first thing that I recognized was that all of these guys saw extraordinary as a value. It's not something that they had to become. It's not something that they had to achieve. It's not something that they had to do. They didn't think about it as that when I climb Mount Everest, I'm going to be extraordinary. No, they didn't think about it as that when I achieve enlightenment, I'm going to be extraordinary. Or when I jump off that cliff to be a base jumper, I become extraordinary. No, they saw extraordinary as something, an integral part of life. Right? They saw extraordinary as who they were. They saw extraordinary as one of the most important part of their value system of who they are. Now, of course, none of them used the word extraordinary. All of them had different ways of definition of it. But the thing that in common was that they wanted to live a life that was worth living. They wanted to live a life that made sense to them. They didn't want to live a mediocre life. They wanted to live a life that made sense to them and not settle for mediocrity, which I've recognized that a lot of people, about 90% of the world, if I may say that, do that, right? Because as humans, I mean, think about it, right? We humans are the only species on the planet that is able to adjust anywhere, right? If you take a polar bear uh, and then put them on a desert, do you think that they would be able to survive? They won't be able to survive, right? Any other animals or birds, if we take them out from their natural habitat and put it somewhere else, they won't be able to survive. But not us humans. We go to moon and we would survive. We go to Antarctica and we find a way to live there. And so which means that we are able to evolve and adapt to any environment very easily. It's almost like we mold into our environment naturally. It's just something we are capable of doing. That's true even in life, because we have this tendency to mold ourselves into either an extraordinary situation or mediocrity. And often what happens is that people adjust themselves. I mean, a great example of this is the lockdown that we are experiencing today, right? I mean, if someone would have just mentioned, like 3 months back, that you know what, to reduce the pollution on the planet, we humans can go inside our house and just stay in the house for uh, as long as possible, and most people would have laughed at that, because 3 months back, no one would have imagined that the whole planet can get inside their houses and just stay inside. It just wasn't possible. But when it actually came to that, it happened, and we did that, and it's making such a huge impact on the planet. Uh, so we are able to adjust to any environment easily. The thing is, it could be a positive thing as well as negative thing, right? Because it could be positive if you're adjusting to extraordinary. If that's your value and that's what you're adjusting to, then that's great. Then your intention becomes extraordinary. That's who you want to be, and then you adjust to being extraordinary. But often, what I've noticed, what happens is that people adjust to mediocrity. They start living life that's not up to the standards. They start living life that and not up to the standards, not according to the society, not according to the world. They start living life that's not up to the standards that they've created for themselves, and yet they live in that. They kind of adjust into that mediocrity. And like I said, for us humans, it's easy to adjust, and that mediocrity eventually becomes normal, and the extraordinary goes out of the window. Uh, and so the first step that you guys want to take, or what all of us want to do, not just you, all of us, is to start living extraordinary as a value and create that as our new reality and adjust to that reality. Now, the thing for you to know that how can you create that reality, what what is extraordinary for you, and how can you live that, the question to ask is, what needs to happen for you to experience extraordinary for self? Not about planet, not about others. It's not about changing the world. It always starts with self first. Because if you live an extraordinary life, everything around you would automatically start changing. So the question is that what needs to happen for you to experience extraordinary? And could some of you share? So maybe take about 30 seconds to think about it and reflect on this, and share it in the chat box. That in the framework, as I've mentioned, when dash happens, I experience being extraordinary. Now the thing is that you would be surprised at how specific this would be, right? Because a lot of the responses could be very general. It could be like, when I'm confident, I experience extraordinary, but that's still not specific. The surprising thing is that for us, experiencing any value, not just extraordinary, but any value, it will be very specific. So for me, to give an example, when I do things on time, I experience extraordinary. So when I'm precise with my time, I experience extraordinary. Or when I do something that I thought I couldn't do. So, like for example, initially I thought that I couldn't climb this particular peak in Himalayas, but I went there and I did that. So when I climbed that peak, I recognized that I experienced being extraordinary. So I'd like you to share that what are some of the things. What's your sense of extraordinary? How do you recognize it for yourself when you are extraordinary? It's amazing. You have similar thing like me, Amy. When you trek, you experience being extraordinary. It's the same thing I have. Shashank, when you record a video on math and it gets positive feedback, you experience being extraordinary. That's tricky. I'll share why that's tricky. Hey, Rajesh, when you consistently do things that you planned, you experience extraordinary. As a coach, when you enable inner shift, meaningful shift that is significant to them, you experience extraordinary. When you travel, you feel great. Excellent. When you feel aligned with what I did. When you run, uh, wow, amazing. When you find motivation, a push within, you experience being extraordinary. Yeah, Jyoti, I have similar. When I complete all my tasks without procrastinating, but I feel good about it, that's when I feel extraordinary. When you're able to follow your routine according to your plan. Excellent. So, right, so we have this inner definition, and this is just one of the definition, right? We will have many other definitions, right? So if you think about it more, you could think about what are some of the other definition for you, that's your inner definition for you of what is extraordinary for you. When you do something that's out of your comfort zone, excellent. When you break your own boundaries, and you can obviously explore that further, that what does breaking your own boundaries mean for you. Good. What else? When tick all the boxes in task. Yeah. Okay, brilliant. So one of the things that I'd like you to do, and this is important at the end of this session, right? So make sure that you at least have 3 to 5 things that gives you an experience of extraordinary, right? So maybe I'll give you 30 seconds, and as you write, share it with us as well, that when I do this, I experience extraordinary, or when I achieve the impossible, I experience extraordinary. Like Anand, when I deliver a great NLP training, I experience extraordinary. Yeah, that's similar to me as well. When you do something that you've never done before, excellent. What else? And think and really think about it to get as specific as you can. Now, one of the things that you could do is think about some of the moments in your life where you experience extraordinary, right? Think about some of the moments in your life where you achieved remarkable results, where you made that shift in others, where you created impact. And just recognize that what happened. What about that experience gave you that feeling of being extraordinary? The pace. Climbing Everest will definitely make you feel extraordinary. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Mm. Mm. Running 100 miles. Wow. Excellent, Seema. Good. Excellent. So the first thing is to recognize and live extraordinary as a value, right? It's just something, not something uh, like if you notice some of you have shared it in a way that when you would do something like when you will climb Everest, you will experience extraordinary. That's the mindset shift that you want to have. That was one of the difference that these guys had, right? The shift is that think about you already being there. It's not something that you would do to become extraordinary. It's something that you already are and operate from there. So live it as a value. And it could be as small as it could be in the smallest of things, like doing tasks, or it could be on the huge things like climbing Everest and starting a new company or working out. Uh, when you breathe, yeah, it could be as simple as that. Yeah. Or when you meditate, yes, absolutely. So, are you getting a sense of what it is for you, or how is it for you when you adopt extraordinary as a value? Are you getting a sense of this? Being part of my Himalaya retreat. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Anita. Yeah. I'm just waiting for lockdown to get done so that we can go back to mountains again. Okay. Yes. Okay. Brilliant. So that's one of the most important mindset shift, right? To live it as a value and not something that you want to achieve. Right? That's the first thing. Okay, let's go back to the second mindset shift, right? Now, one of the most common thing that I recognized uh, in some of these guys who lived an extraordinary life was that they had what I would like to call it as rules of extraordinary, right? So they had in a way created a boundary condition of 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 their standards of living, and that kind of focused on some of the most important aspects, right? One of those aspects that some of you have already mentioned is vision focused. These are the guys who always focused on what they want and where they want to be at. So for those of you who already know NLP, this is what we call a solution focused or towards focused, but not just towards focused like I want to get to this place. They were highly vision focused. The monks were highly focused on enlightenment. And so if they faced an obstacle, if they faced a challenge, rather than giving up, they kind of focus like, what can I do now to overcome this challenge? So they were highly vision focused. Now, of course, this step of really comes from that having a vision, right? So that's an important part. Without having a really strong vision, it's not that easy to experience extraordinary. Uh, Now, that vision doesn't have to be changing the world. Like Seema mentioned earlier, that vision could be just breathing, right? So finding yourself through being aware, creating awareness through your breathing, and that's still all right. In fact, to me, that's a great vision to have, because awareness is starting point to so many amazing things in life. But having something to pay attention to is important. For Satyarup, he was super, extremely focused on climbing those peaks, climbing those 7 summits. For Oliver, he's extremely focused on jumping off the cliffs, but for him, it's having that adrenaline, that overcoming those fears. And he was extremely focused on that. And so it's important for you to be focused on your vision. And my assumption is that all of you have a sense, if not exactly, a sense of some form of vision. Am I right? Yes? No? Okay, great. Just checking. Yeah. And feel free to share with everyone. This is a community, right? So feel free to share if you would like to share with all of us what that vision is for you. And if you don't want to, that's perfectly fine as well. Right? So that's the first thing. Having that vision is important, but to also make it ecological, right? Just to give an example, someone could have a vision to save the planet. Now, saving the planet can happen in many different ways. The planet will be saved if the humanity went extinct, right? Because the planet will thrive. But is that ecological? Probably not. Uh, and so, when you have that vision, it's important to check that if it's ecological. It's important to check that, does it make sense within the context of who you are, with your surrounding, with people you love and care about, with the infrastructure that you're part of. Thanks, Ajit. Yes, to be able to connect with inner depth and creativity. Brilliant. And a lot of these things are ecological, right? To have that check. But the most important thing that I recognized in these guys is, and which is something most people aren't aware of, is that these guys were aware of the rules of the society and they didn't necessarily follow them. Now, let me clarify that these rules of society doesn't mean laws. We have laws and then we have society rules, right? Laws are something like don't kill someone, and that's something that you follow, right? So please don't go out of this online workshop and say, oh, I'm going to break laws now. This online workshop is being recorded specifically for this purpose, to clarify, to say that I'm not asking you to break law. But what I'm asking you to think about is that what are some of the rules that you unconsciously follow, that is created by the society, or that is created by the culture that you're part of, that is created by your surroundings, by your environment. And what I recognized was that these guys didn't necessarily follow all of these rules. To give you some of the examples of these guys, let's take an example of Satyarup. Uh, when Satyarup got excited about mountaineering, he was asthmatic, right? And he was told that he actually can't climb mountains because he has asthma. So going to a high altitude where the oxygen's less, the breathing becomes heavy, it's just difficult. It's just something that you can't climb. But for him, it's not a law. It was just a rule that was created by the society. And he decided to not to follow that rule. Now, of course, he made sure that medically he practiced, he went to doctors, he prepared to make sure that he doesn't get into trouble when he is on high altitude. So he worked towards this. Not that one day he went like, okay, you know what, I'm not going to follow this rule and I'm going to go climb Everest. No, then that's not ecological. So he made sure that the ecology was in place, but he chose not to listen to people, and he chose to ignore the rules. And the same goes with Oliver. Like for him to be able to be adventurous, uh, he had to unfollow a lot of the things that society demanded, like having a 9 to 6, which is a big part of. He's. I met him in Switzerland, but he's German, and that's a big part of the society to have that sustainability, to have that security, and he decided to let go of that. Uh, and so there are rules that we follow that's useful for us to follow, right? Because it helps us, it enables us. And then there are rules that we follow just because society tells us, or just because someone, our upbringing us told us, just because our teachers have told us, our parents have told us, our friends have told us, or just because the whole world is doing that, you should do that. And it's important to recognize that some of those rules may not make sense for you. Some of those rules may be stopping you to achieve what you want to achieve, right? So I want you to take a moment and think about what are some of the rules that you already have that enable. So these are the rules that works for you, that enables you to experience extraordinary. And then what are some of the rules that stop you, that you want to let go of, that stop you, and that you can let go of right now, right? So just maybe take about 30 seconds and just share it in the chat, share it with all of us, that what are some of the rules that helps you, what are some of the rules that you want to let go of. Yeah, in the moment I'm just gonna grab water. Yeah. You can quit your job now because that's just a rule, right? And again, just make sure that it's ecological. You want to make sure that it's taking care of you. Age is just a number, yeah, right? I mean, that's, I believe that, I mean, I started NLP when I was 17, and so often I thought that I was so young to do NLP because people wouldn't take me seriously. And so for me, the rule was age is equal to experience, which isn't true. I'm young and I still have 12 years of experience in NLP. So age-related restrictions within society, yeah, age has nothing. I mean, you can start anything at 50 and you can start anything at 17, and they are the same thing. Listen to yourself first. Yeah, that's an excellent rule to have. Yeah, log kya kahenge? That's an internal dialogue for so many people, right? What will people think and what will people do? More importantly, uh, what will people think when you fail? You know, most people don't have fear of failure. Uh, this is something I learned when I was quite young, and I'm glad that I learned that quite early. Most people think that they have fear of failure, but most people don't have fear of failure. Most people have fear of what the failure will look like to others. I'm sure a lot of you relate to that, right? Yeah, fear of being just as similar. Yeah, fear of rejection. Yes, and a lot of that comes from external factors, right? Rejection. You can't reject yourself. I mean, some people do reject themselves, but a lot of those rejections is like society is going to reject you. People are going to reject you. And that's the same thing with fear of failure, right? It's not about fear of failure, but it's what fear of failure looks like to others. What does that matter? I mean, another way to look at it is that imagine that if you failed and no one noticed, would you be okay with failing? Yeah? Take chances. And jobs are to quit. Excellent. I mean, a lot of you are sharing that. And I hope that you're doing ecology check, but it's great that you're following your passion. Being perfect, right? Yeah, that's a rule that you can let go of. Why perfection? Instead, I started again something that I learned. I mean, every now and then I still get caught up in perfection, but what I learned was that instead of being perfect, what if I can focus on the outcome? As long as my outcome is to make a difference and I'm making a difference to others, I don't really need to be perfect. What else? Yeah, one of the rules is that you must know it all, right? But that's not needed. Now, that's one of the most crucial distinctions that I've recognized. That these guys who were able to achieve amazing things, they were able to achieve amazing things because they were aware of how to let go of these rules of society. They don't necessarily follow them. They unfollowed these rules and they rather focused on their vision. And if, you know, I mean, usually on the online workshop, my aim is to give you one or two impactful learning. And if you can get that, I'm happy. I don't need, you don't need to become extraordinary right now. You don't need to achieve massive results. But for me, if you can apply one or two things and experience that powerfully, I'd be the most happiest person on the planet. And one of those things for me would be this, to become aware towards the rules, what rules you carry from the society, and how you can let go of them. So if you can learn one or two things, this is definitely one of the things that I would like you to take away. And this is something you can experience now. It's not something you got to practice, not something that's for future. It's just something that you can start experiencing right now. Does this make sense? Yes? No? Maybe? Okay. Brilliant. Okay, good. So are you guys happy to go to the next step? The third and the last uh, secret. Surbi, you said maybe. So we'll have Q&A at the end of this. So if you're unclear about something, if you want to know more, let's finish this and then you can ask me all the questions that you want and I'll be happy to help you get clarity. Yes, yeah. So you can ask me about this later. But for now, are you ready to go to the last rule? Okay. Ta-da! This is the big reveal. Okay. So this is also one of the insight that can shake you, uh, make you fall off your chair that you're sitting on. But before I can tell you this, I need to first help you understand how a part of human mind works. Right? Now, for me to help you understand how the part of human mind works, first I need to ask you an important question. Have you guys ever loved someone? This is a curveball, right? You didn't expect this question. Now, this doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a brother, a friend, uh, but you've loved someone, right? In your life? Oh, yes, definitely. Yeah, yeah. Great. Everyone's saying yes. Let me just to kind of double check. Is there anyone here who hasn't loved anyone? No. Okay, great. Thanks, Rajesh. Okay, brilliant. I just wanted to make sure, just wanted to confirm that. Okay, excellent. So you know the experience of being in love, right? Now, as you know the experience of being in love, here's what actually happens when you're in love, right? When you're in love with someone, is it because the person is so lovable? Most likely, no. I mean, I'm sure the person is lovable, but it's not why you love that person. Because if that person was so lovable, then the whole world should love them, right? The whole world should love that person because the person is just so lovable. But the whole world doesn't love them. You love them. And that's because love exists within you. It doesn't exist with the other person. You love them because you see them in a particular way. I mean, a great example of this is romantic relationships. When you just fallen in love, how you have a tendency to see only good in people? Like you see that smile, the way they speak, those phone calls, those messages, right? So you kind of only see the good in them. But fast forward that relationship 3 years down the line, what happens? You still see good in them. I don't mean to say that you don't see bad in them. I didn't say that. You guys are saying that. Uh, but you notice the perception changes, right? Uh, the perception sometimes changes, and so your experience of love isn't dependent on the person you love. Your experience of love is dependent on your perception of love, how you choose to see love. Does that make sense? Now, that's not only true for love, that's true for all the emotions, right? When you see someone being inspiring, that's because not that that person is inspiring, it's because you are able to see inspiration in them. If you see someone confident, it's not because that person is confident, it's because you are able to see confidence in them, right? The question is that how do you see inspiration in someone? How do you see confidence in someone? The answer is it's because you yourself have an experience of it. It's almost like, you can't really identify what a coffee is. Like if you just saw coffee kept on the table, you won't be able to identify it if you've never seen coffee or if you never drank coffee in your life, right? You won't be able to do that. You might be able to if you were like an alien came down to this planet and saw something. You won't go like that's coffee. No, for you to be able to identify coffee, you need to have an experience of it. That could be either through education, that could be either through drinking coffee, that could be either through someone telling you about it, but you need to have an experience of it. And that's how you are able to identify something. And so, which means that for you to be able to identify inspiration, confidence, courage, you need to have an experience of that yourself. If you yourself don't have an experience of that, then you won't be able to see it in others. As simple as that. Does that make sense so far? Okay, brilliant. So, which brings me to an interesting question, right? All of you are here because you were able to identify with being extraordinary. That's why you decided to join this online session, right? Yes? No? Maybe? Did any one of you decide to join this session without being able to identify with extraordinary? Maybe. Okay. So, at one level or the other, you were able to, at one level, either you are there or either you were curious, but one way or the other, you got carried away by email, yes. But one way or the other, you were able to relate to what extraordinary is, and it's something that you wanted to have for yourself, and that's why you are here. Uh, and so the question is that if one way or the other, if you were able to identify, uh, if you were able to identify with extraordinary, then that means that you've got to have an experience of it, right? right? Like we discussed earlier, that for you to see love in others, that means that you have to have an experience of love to be able to see it in others. For you to be able to see inspiration in others, that means you yourself have to have an inspiration uh, yourself. You have to have a structure of it. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're feeling it then, but it means that you know what's it like. And so, the same thing with extraordinary. If you are able to identify with extraordinary to be here, then at one level, you've got to have structure of it. Right? At one level, you've got to have an experience of it within you. Do you guys agree? Yes. Okay, excellent. So that brings me to my third secret then, right? The third secret is that you don't need to go and find extraordinary on the outside. The thing is that you already are extraordinary. And that was one of the biggest beliefs that I noticed all of these guys that I modeled believed. And like I said, they didn't use the word extraordinary, but at one level or the other, they believe that they already are the person. They already are remarkable. They already are adventurous. They already are courageous, or they are fearless. They are high achieving, high impact, or enlightened. They already believe that they already are that person. And that's true for extraordinary as well. It's not something that you need to go and find outside. It's not something that isn't there within you. Because if it wasn't there within you, then you wouldn't even be able to identify with the message, the email, the landing page, however you got here. So the fact that you are able to identify with extraordinary means that you already are extraordinary. And that's one of the functions of mind as well. One of the ways your mind function is that it pays attention to what it wants to pay attention to. Uh, that's why the example of love is that when you find someone lovable, it's because you're paying attention to that part of them that's lovable, and you ignore the rest. If you find someone confident, because you're paying attention to the part of them that's confident, and you ignore the rest. So, which means that when you find someone extraordinary, it's because you choose to see that in them. But that's true for self as well, right? You already are extraordinary. It's just that if you're not feeling it, then you're not choosing to pay attention to that part of yourself who already is extraordinary. And that's what I mean when I say that it's just about reconnecting with it. You're just disconnected with it, or you're not paying attention to that part of who you are. Does this make sense so far? Okay. So the shift is for you guys to know that you already are extraordinary. And maybe this session was just about you reconnecting with it rather than you chasing it. It's not something that you're going to go outside and get it. It's just something that you're going to go reconnect with. So the question is that knowing this, how many of you are able to reconnect with that part of you already? Because it's just about paying attention to that part of you, right? It's just about uh, paying attention to that, to who you are. That's extraordinary already. Okay, so one of the question is how to reconnect it. We're going to come to that. But a big part of that answer to that question is to pay attention to that part of you that's already extraordinary. One of the ways to do that is think about times in your life where you experience being extraordinary. And that's one of the ways to reconnect it. Yeah. Haha. I know, Amy, you and I both love mountain pictures. So we always put mountain pictures. Thanks. Thanks. Thanks, Ashi. Yeah, all of you are extraordinary. Yes, brilliant. I mean, like I said, that the one shift that I would expect from you is from the previous point to recognize the rules and to break those rules. The second shift for me is for you to leave this session knowing that you're extraordinary. And you, like I said, that you might not fully experience it, and which is okay. There are ways which I'm going to show you in next 2 minutes to experience it. But as it, those ways won't be useful as long as you don't believe this. So you've got to first start with believing this for yourself to be this person. Now, some of you ask, what are those ways, right? So I'm going to give you an activity to do, which will connect with the first exercise that we did earlier, right? I'm going to give you an activity to do that will help you reconnect with extraordinary. But before I give you that activity, are you guys happy to do that? And would you guys commit to do it? Then only I'll share it with you. Otherwise, I'll skip this part. Okay, excellent. And would you guys share it with me? So I'm going to give you this activities that you're going to go through for the next 7 days. And then at the end of the 7 days, to share it with me where you're at. Stop the suspense. Yeah, but would you share it with me? Okay, excellent. So here's the activity. Okay. What I would like you to do for the next 7 days is to experience extraordinary moments at least 5 times in the day, right? And this could relate to the first exercise that we did where you explored, right? That when you do dash, you experience extraordinary. Now, these doesn't have to be big things. You don't have to go and climb Everest to tell yourself that you're extraordinary. It comes from the experience of their value. So it could be as small things as, you know what, you decided to wake up at 5 in the morning and you woke up at 5 in the morning. You commit to waking up at 5 in the morning for the next 7 days, and that gives you an experience of being extraordinary. It could be just creating awareness with your breathing, right? Maybe spending 5 minutes for breathing awareness, and then you go like, okay, this is me experiencing extraordinary. It could be finishing your daily tasks, like all the things that you list down and finishing them. Uh, it could be spending time with yourself on your personal growth, and that is extraordinary. It could be as simple as watching Netflix, if you consider that extraordinary. What you do, like I said, doesn't really matter. But what matters is that you creating or allowing yourself to feel or have that experience of extraordinary. I guarantee this for you that if you do this, 5 things for next 7 days, you would fully reconnect with your extraordinary self at the end of seventh day. You would fully experience to be your extraordinary self. So does this make sense for all of you? You guys commit to this? Excellent. Thank you. So I really look forward to understanding. Neeti, good question. Do we mail you every day? No, I won't be able to respond to everyday emails, but you can share it with me maybe at the end of the. You can maintain a journal, yes, keep notes, and then at the end of the 7 day, you can just share it with me your experience of what you did and what you experienced and what happened. And like I said, right, some of you already mentioned, it's not about perfection. It's not about getting it right. It's not about, even succeeding. It's just about experiencing it. So we'll come to questions just in a moment, right? So I'll take all the questions. Uh, First, I want to make sure that how you can, I mean, if you want to get in touch with us, just reply to the email that you would have got. Most of you would have got an email from us. Just reply to that email and it will be uh, read by me. All right. Oh, thanks for sharing, Seema, about experience calendar. Oh, that really love to know. Yeah, that's why feedbacks are one of the most amazing things that fuels us, right? So thanks for sharing. Experience calendar is one of the things that we created in the last online workshop that we did on habits. Um, and Seema is just mentioning that. Okay, sorry. Okay, brilliant. Now, before we get to questions, I also wanted to kind of let you guys know uh, that if you want to continue, if you want to continue exploring, if you want to continue exploring more and going deeper into your extraordinary self, sorry, just where did the presentation go? So if you want to continue exploring and going deeper into your extraordinary self, we this actually is an interesting story. This happened because of lockdown, but we've created this amazing online program which goes on for 30 days. So it has a similar structure to what we're creating right now, where you're practicing something for 7 days, but instead of 7 days, we've created activities for 30 days. Ah, are you still not able to hear me? Are you able to hear me now? Okay, brilliant. Maybe just the connection. Okay. Excellent. So we've created this 30-day, which is very exercise based. Uh, we have like it's an experience that spans over 30 days, where you have 12 sessions taken by some of the most amazing teachers from around the world. This time we have Judith Love, who is an exceptional teacher. We have Carrie Nichols, who is an agile trainer and NLP trainer. And of course, I'm going to be taking some of the sessions, and we'll have Wimla, who will be taking, who's an amazing NLP trainer, and she has one of the most powerful stories that you will ever hear. Would be taking. So we've kind of brought together some of the best teachers from around the world, and then we design daily activities. So if it's something that you would love to experience further, go dwell deeper into creating transformation every single day of your life, so to take it to the next level every single day, then we're going to be starting the next batch on 24th May. Uh, and then that's going to go for 1 month. So if you'd like to know, there is a link available, as you can see up. You can go through the page. If you wanna, if you have questions, you can let us know. There is an obviously early bird discount for the next few days, 4 or 5 days. So you can always avail that. But if you want more clarifications, just feel free to let us know. Right? So now, in the meanwhile, I'm gonna open the Q&A mode. So I know that some of you had questions. So if you had questions, please share it with me in the chat, and I can take some of them and respond to them. I know that some of you have already asked, and I kind of missed a lot of those questions. So if you'd be kind enough to type again, then I'll be happy to respond again. Okay, so we've got one question from Mayank. So let's start with that. In my experience of interviewing enlightened folks, at what point did these people start feeling extraordinary? It's not something we learn in school. That's correct. Is there a pattern to the epiphany, or is it the gradual acquired belief? That's a very interesting question. I think it's a very significant one as well. Uh, I think, like I said, that when I interviewed these guys, for these guys, extra, they didn't feel like they were extraordinary. It's just something I saw in them. So my answer to that question would be, I don't think it's an epiphany, but if you were to define epiphany, then that epiphany for a lot of them came from that vision. Uh, like I know that for Satyarup, the moment he saw himself on the top of Everest, he was excited. He knew that he had to live an extraordinary life to be able to achieve that. So with the monks, when they experienced, like one of the monks who I met in the Himalayas, he's a French monk who was a firefighter, and he had seen so much misery in his life that one day he went, that you know what, I want to let go of all this misery. And so I think that epiphany, if you were to say that, that epiphany comes from that real, creating a real strong vision. Uh, I think that's my answer to it, and then committing to that life of living that vision, and that for most of these guys is how they defined extraordinary. So I hope I answered your question. If you have any follow up, let me know. Good. Any other questions? Okay. V. Uh, in that case, all of us often do things that are extraordinary but just fail to see it. That's absolutely true. That's what I truly believe, that we do extraordinary things from day to day life, on an ongoing basis every single day. But like I said, that we have a choice to what do we want to pay attention to. We have a choice on, what do we want to focus on in our life, and that could be focusing on the things that we do as extraordinary, or that could be that how we failed. But we do definitely do extraordinary things daily in life, and we just don't see it. Like I said, that our mind focuses on, it sees what you want to see, and seeing extraordinary is a choice. You can see what you want to see. Right? So I hope that answers. Yeah. Thanks, Bhargavi and Seema. Thanks for joining, and yeah, thanks for being part of this session. Yeah, like Vimla says, right? We may not strive to be extraordinary, but and yet when we follow our purpose and values, we live an extraordinary life. It's an amazing thing to focus on. Ramkesh is a question for everyone. I just don't think it's for me. So maybe I'll just put it out for everyone to answer. And whoever would like to answer can. One of Pradeep's question is, missed the first half of the webinar? Yes, we will be sending you the recording of the webinar in a day or two. So you will have it in your inbox and you can review it, go through this again, revise it, go back to this exercise, go back to this insights and experiences again and again. Anand, one moment. Question, would you please repeat the dates for the 30 days program? Yes, sure. The link is, so you can see the link on the top, and I can share it with you again as well. That's the link to the 30-day program. The starting date is 24th May. So we'll be starting on 24th May. I think that's a Sunday. See, how is the 7-day activity and the 30-day activity connected to learning NLP? So a lot of these activities that we have designed comes from NLP. Now, to just let you know that the purpose of the 30-day program isn't to learn NLP, but we do use a lot of NLP models to create the transformation. So you can think about it as uh, that uh, yeah, you can think about it as these are the applications of the models. And yeah, so these are the applications of the models. And the purpose is for you at this point to learn to transform, to learn to be extraordinary. And in the process of that, you're also going to learn NLP. And you're going to learn several different models of NLP. Now, one of the things that I forgot to mention earlier is that this program eventually leads to NLP certification, so NLP practitioner certification. But for you to have a practitioner certification, you will have to come to our in-person program, which is part of the course fees anyway, so you don't have to pay extra. But you have to be part of an in-person program so that, because there are some things in NLP you just can't learn online. And so we can't certify people online. So once you become part of that in-person program, then you can get certified in NLP as well, because as a part of the process of this 30-day program, you're going to learn so many NLP models, and you will be also be able to help others. Okay. One of the question from Indira is that the challenge always is to be connected to being extraordinary consistently. The mundane kind of crease slowly. Is there a way to deal with that? Can NLP help? Yes, I mean, the part of the reason for us to develop the 30-day program was to consistently practice something daily. And like I said, that you don't have to be part of the program to do that. But if you be part of the program, then you get support. And yeah, I mean, we have people joining him all over the world. In the last program, we had people from Switzerland, US, Dubai, Bangladesh, Pakistan. So you build a supportive environment for yourself that helps you consistently practice. But the idea, I mean, like I said, that it can happen without the program as well. The idea is for you to, if you were part of the habits workshop, then you can practice some of the things that we discussed in habit to create being extraordinary as a habit. Or maybe that could be the next online workshop of creating extraordinary as habit. But those are some of the things that I can answer in short right now. But yes, NLP can definitely help. Joining the program would definitely help, and creating it as a habit would definitely help. This would be my quick response for the moment. Okay, brilliant. Uh, let's look at, is there anything else? Maybe just one or two questions. And, okay, that's taken. Link is there. No, need to leave. Thank you. Okay, this is taken. While milestone-based attribute isn't advisable as against everyday value-based attributes to identify extraordinary, vision in itself an important milestone which brings around the mindset shift. I'm assuming that's a question, and yes, I mean that's in a way accurate to say that. Yes, the focus is to create value-based attributes, and vision is what kind of creates that epiphany, as you mentioned before. Okay. Ashish, if where can you get more information about NLP? What I would suggest is that if you can just write to us, if you can just reply to one of the emails and write to us, what I can do is set up call with one of our team members who will be able to better help you get information about NLP, because it's very difficult for me to explain it to you in a short while now, but you can have a long half an hour, 45 minutes call where you can have an experience of what NLP is. And then they can give you more information about it. Yeah, like Vimla has offered to help, Akshaya can help. So just write to us and we'll be able to get in touch with you. All right. Okay. Brilliant. I think we're gonna pause for now. So I hope that you guys had an amazing experience, and I hope that you are able to create those two shifts. And I hope that some of you are able to join us in the program. Uh, and in the meanwhile, feel free to get in touch with us for any help and support. For now, thank you so much for joining. Like I said, that you guys were amazingly engaged. You guys shared some powerful insights. Absolutely brilliant, brilliant stuff. So thank you so much for sharing those insights, taking the learning for the whole community to the next level. And I hope to connect with you in the program or in the next webinar or at some point in future. So thank you so much. Thank you guys. And I'm gonna see you guys soon. Take care. Thanks, Vidhi. Thanks, Tanzina. Thanks, Paloma. Brilliant. Thanks, Ashi, and you too. You too. Brilliant. Thanks, Rajesh. Hey, Niti. Thank you. Brilliant.